everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you my summer reading recommendations. So I kind of have a variety of books in here. I think summer is a good time to read kind of either light fluffy contemporaries or longer kind of deeper books because you have more time to read because you're not in school. So this is like actually the first summer that I'm gonna be at an adult job. Like I'm done school forever, so I was like, I have so much reading time, like this is crazy. Yeah, I just have a good variety. Some of them are historical fiction, some is contemporary, magical realism, kind of historical fiction-y mystery, and then one's like another contemporary. So I kind of spice it up, and these are books that make me think of summer. And I think part of it is because I did read some of these books during the summer, so maybe that's why. But yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So the first book that I have here is one that I read a couple years ago actually, and it's a historical fiction one, but it is one that it really stuck with me, and it is What She Left Behind by Ellen Marie Wiseman. And so this one, basically the premises of this, it follows kind of two storylines. One girl is who is going to be adopted by this family who are excavating this insane asylum that's kind of been known to be like haunted in this area. And so while this girl's kind of excavating, helping her adopted parents kind of excavate this area, it flashes back to the early 1900s following a girl who was sent to a state asylum by her parents because she didn't want to marry the man that they wanted her to. And it kind of explores the mental health system and how people were treated in these institutions. And I think it's really interesting because I remember talking about this, like how there's like the stigmatism toward mental illness during the time and even now, I think. So it's really interesting to see like how people could be treated this way, and like I was like so invested in this story. And I think it's just because it does have that dual storyline, it's woven in very seamlessly, so you don't really feel like you're stop and go. So I really, if you're looking for like a unique historical fiction that kind of touches on an era that a lot of people don't really talk about even now, so I think this one is really good. So yeah, this one is just a really good, it reminds me of summer for some reason, but it's a really good read in either way. So yeah, I highly recommend that you pick this one up. So this book just screams summer for me, and it is Garden Spells by Sarah Addison Allen. And this is a book that I read last summer actually, and this author in general does a very good job at magical realism, and they all take place in the South, and this one is no different. It follows the Waverleys, who are kind of known in their little small town as being kind of almost witches, where they have powers in a sense. Like one person can like sense, like will just see a random object and be like, someone needs that, and she'll give it to them, and that person will be like, what's this for? And then later on they'll end up needing it for some way. Or they have a garden where they can like make almost like love potions or like all this stuff out of the garden. So it's really interesting. And so like they're kind of, everything gets thrown upside down when Sydney, who's the sister that's kind of run away from this family, comes back, and all this other stuff, and like the town is like, oh my goodness, like, and all this stuff. And I think it's just kind of best to go into this not knowing too much, but yeah, it has magical realism in it, but it just has that perfect small town summer like in the South, and that's how I always picture this. And like this always gives me, like, even just looking at the cover, I'm like, it just feels like summer with sweet iced tea on the porch. So I highly recommend, if you are looking for like a unique magical realism book, that I highly recommend you check this one out. So this is probably one of my favorite books of all time, and it is Firefly Lane by Kristin Hannah. I know Kristin Hannah here on BookTube is gaining more traction now due to the success of The Nightingale, which I'm very happy about. This is a book that I read maybe 4 years ago, and it still has stuck with me. It's a contemporary that kind of follows the story of Tuli and Kate and their friendship over the course of 30 years, and the ups and downs of their friendship, and just how it changes and how we change, but kind of how friendships evolve during different periods of our life, being kind of during university, when we have kids, and all this stuff. And this book will crush you. I'm not kidding you. Like, I was sobbing, and I was so happy I didn't read like the ending when I was at school, because I was literally in my bed crying reading this. And it's just a really good, it kind of really showcases the unique kind of qualities of female friendships and how important they are to have in our lives, and the ups and downs, and how that's okay. And if you're looking for something that is very impactful and will have really a lasting impact on you like this book has, then I highly recommend you pick this book up. I think this one is, next to The Nightingale, this one is my favorite of the Kristin Hannah books, and that was because this is what really made me fall in love with her writing, even though I read a couple of her previous books before. Like, this is the one that really impacted me, and it is still stuck with me even all these years later. So again, this is a book that I read last summer, and it is The Forgotten Garden by Kate Morton. And this one, again, is kind of a very atmospheric read, and I think this one, because it is a little bit longer, I think this is just the perfect book that you can read on a lazy Sunday outside on your porch, which is what I did when I was reading this. So essentially, it follows a girl named Nell who, on her 18th birthday, finds out that her parents that she's known all her life are not her biological parents. Rather, she was found after a boat docked in Australia, and she was left alone, abandoned. So this kind of crushes Nell and it kind of ruins her. So we kind of flash forward to kind of present day, where I'm trying to think, Cassandra is the granddaughter, and she kind of stumbles upon her grandmother after Nell has passed away. She kind of learns this about her, and she stumbles upon this kind of storyteller book, and she thinks it might have a connection to Nell's parents and where she came from. So then it kind of flashes back to the early 1900s, just kind of the turn of the century, following Liza, who is a storyteller, and we don't know how she is somehow intertwined with this story, but she is. But this book was just beautiful. I was highly invested in. I honestly read the last like 300 pages in one sitting because I couldn't put it down. And if you are a fan of kind of historical fiction with a little bit of mystery in it and just kind of figuring things out with the characters, I think this book is amazing. And Kate Morton is just probably one of my favorite authors of all time, and she has a new book coming out in October, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, I think if you're looking for like a good book to grip you from like the beginning, this is the book for you. That is very atmospheric, and it is just amazing. And lastly, this is a book that has become more popular now that the TV show has been out, and I read this maybe when it was first published like years ago. It makes me feel old. I don't even know when it was published. Let me just find that real quick. Yeah, in 2014, so it was a long time ago. I was like in my undergrad, and yeah, second year of my undergrad, so makes me feel old. And it is Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty, and I just ended up watching the TV show recently. Actually, I got it from the library because I don't want to pay for HBO, and I really liked it. They stuck like a really good job. They stuck really good to kind of the essence of the story and all of that, which I thought was a really good adaptation. But because that book is so popular, it made me think of when I was reading this like a couple summers ago, and I honestly really love this. It's a really like juicy, it's just a really good contemporary that's really well done, and just kind of almost a satire in the sense of just like I don't even know, like more like a satire of society and just kind of the weird quirks. And like when I was reading this, I'm like, this reminds me of just kind of like the politics within the community of where we used to live in Chicago. So basically the premise of this is that there was a murder that took place during a trivia night at kind of a school for the parents as like a fundraiser, and we don't know who was murdered. And then it kind of flashes back 6 months prior to when this event took place, and when this new person, Jane, kind of rolls into town, and you kind of get different like dialogues of different people of like their interpretation of what was going on. And it's a really good social commentary, but I think there's no really good way to describe this. I think you just need to kind of go into it just as it is and just kind of experience it, and it was really good. I really love this book, and I'm like, I kind of want to pick it up again, but I have so many books that I need to read. But definitely if I'm looking for a reread, I definitely will pick this one up. It's a perfect summer read, and it's a really good contemporary with like a little murder twist in here. So yeah, so that's it guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what books you'd like to read over the summer. If you're interested in reading in these, let me know. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye guys.